In this week's episode of Working with Evernote, I'm going to follow up my Working with Todoist episode from just a few days ago. Hello and welcome to another episode of Working with Evernote. My name is Carl Pauline, and in today's show I want to show you how I manage my projects in Evernote. Now, in the previous episode that I did earlier on Working with Todoist, the link you should be able to get up here. In that, I showed you how to reduce your daily to-do list down to what I would describe as a manageable level by using triggers to tell you what work you need to be working on. You see, the problem most people have is they spend way too much time inside their to-do list manager, which means that while they're doing that, they're not actually doing any work. So you're not really being productive. So what I've done, and over the years I've developed this, is I've actually developed a system where my to-do list manager triggers my mind into telling me what I need to be working on. Evernote is where all the mess is. And I say mess in a positive way, if it could ever be in a positive way. And what I mean by that is all my ideas, my notes, and the next things I want to do generally would end up in Evernote. Not as a to-do list, but just as a note so that I can get straight into the work that I intend to get working on. That way I'm not spending so much time in my to-do list manager that I'm thinking, oh, that task looks nice. Oh no, that one's going to be easier. I'll do that one now. Oh no, this task needs a bit more time. Oh, I'll do that this afternoon. That's what happens, and that's why you end up procrastinating. But if you can get yourself shifted into the work mode as quickly as possible, then this is where Evernote has an incredible amount of power. But before we get into Evernote, I would just like to say, if you like this episode, please click on the like button below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. Okay, let's get into Evernote, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, hopefully you've watched the episode I did on working with Todoist. I think it's episode 159, and in that episode I showed you how you would actually use your to-do list manager as the trigger for doing the actual project. Now, when we come into Evernote, what I've done is I have a template that I use for most of my writing projects, particularly long form writing projects like writing a book, or in this case writing a handbook. I also use this for my Time and Life Mastery annual workbook that people can use to plan out the following year. And this is where it usually always begins. And the template essentially is the purpose, which is always a reminder of why I am doing the actual project. I also like to have things to organize, because sometimes you need to collect images together. Sometimes I like to get the company logo in, or the logo of the actual book or the book title. I need to get those into a folder. And in this particular example, I've got volunteers to write personal stories. The other thing that I like to have in my template is things to decide, and this is one of those things. I don't like to have to look at my to-do list manager, think about or decide, because my to-do list manager is there to trigger me to actually do work. Thinking, I know, can be classed as work, but usually for me, thinking would come about when I'm taking my dog for a walk, or when I'm out running, or something like that. So these are things that are just in my Evernote note or project note. Now, the next one I like to put down in there is the link. Now, quite often I will write or prepare documents in my Pages document, and what I do is I do that in iCloud, and so I can actually just create a link. When I click on that link, it's going to open up from my iCloud. It'll open it up in Pages. As you can see right here, it's actually opened up in the document that I want. This saves me from having to mess around looking for the document. Now, One of the beauties of Evernote, particularly these days, is we have a direct link to Google Docs. So if you're going to use your Google Drive for this, I've actually got the new employee handbook there. I can double click on that, and that's going to open up somewhere. That didn't work. But that's going to allow me to open up the, I need to get rid of that. That's going to allow me to actually open the document in my Google Drive. So I'm going to select that. And that's not actually working for some reason. I don't know why it's not working, but essentially that's one of the ways that you can do it. Is this is for attaching the file. So I'm going to attach the file. I do apologize. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a link down there. I'm going to attach the file for my Google Drive. So I'm going to click on this. I was getting ahead of myself there. So I select that. And now that's come into my document. So now this has become a clickable link. When I click on that, it's going to open up my Google Docs, and it's going to take me directly to my new employee handbook, so I can just get straight on and do the work. And this is the main reason why I don't use Todoist to have all my tasks, because although yes, I can link, as you can see, I could link the the iCloud Drive document into this, but what I want to do is when I decide I'm going to work on my employee handbook, I want to be able to click on that. It's going to allow me to open up Evernote, and it's going to give me all the notes that I need in order to get started with the project. So this is one of the beauties of using Evernote to manage the project itself. What your to-do list manager can do is tell you what work needs doing next. So as in I've got in, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So if I go into my to-do list, as you can see, these tasks here: talk to Michelle about what should be included, ask Michelle for a copy of old handbook. These will be labeled Michelle because Michelle is a co-worker, for example. So I could then just add Michelle. I don't think I've actually got Michelle here, but let's have a look. No, I don't. So I would create a label for Michelle. So now I have a label for Michelle, and this one is talk to Michelle again. So I'm going to add Michelle and add that, save that. So let's say I have a meeting with Michelle about something else. Before the meeting ends, all I need to do is click on go into my to-do list manager, and I see at Michelle, and these are the things that I need to ask Michelle. So this is where my to-do list manager comes in handy. If I was having a meeting with Michelle to talk about the project, I would probably just double check if there's anything I want to talk about with Michelle there. But essentially, this is how I have it set up. The notes section in my Evernote is where, as I'm working on the actual document, what I can do is add my notes and add ideas and things. Oh yeah, I need to check this. I want to do that. I don't have to be going in and out of things. I've just got my Evernote note that over time, as the project develops, it fills up, and I then have a copy at the end of it all of how the whole project developed, with my own notes, things that I had to decide, so that next time if I have to write another employee handbook, say in a year or two's time, then I have all the notes that I made from the previous project right there in my archive in Evernote. And that's essentially why I like to keep I've often called Evernote as my digital playground, because this is where I can just dump ideas and I don't have to process it, because by dumping it directly into Evernote, it's there and I don't have to organize it because it's already organized for me as I'm working on the project. Okay, hopefully that rather swift way of going through this has helped you to give you some ideas of how you can manage projects using a to-do list manager and using Evernote. And the two come together. When I work with Todoist and I'm working with Evernote, Todoist essentially tells me what project I'm going to work on, as in the new employee handbook. I then go straight into Evernote and I get on and I start doing the work. I can review my notes from the previous session, because some of the other things you can do, let's say for example, I was keeping a record. I could sort of put in today's date and I would use, this is what I did today. So I actually have a record then of what work I did on a specific day. So I could then write wrote 250 words of introduction, asked Michelle about old handbook. You know, I can actually just keep things like this. Introduction, we get that right. And one of the beauties of doing it this way is I have a record of what I did when I did it. And this is another reason why I prefer to keep a lot of my project stuff in my Evernote. I have a record then of what I have actually done on the actual project itself. It's just a really good way of managing your project and developing it over time. Okay, hopefully that's given you a lot of ideas about how you also can develop your projects, and it just remains for me now to wish you all a very, very productive week.